Welcome to Redtastic. Story 1. I, 30 female, gave birth 7 weeks ago to our first child. I'm on maternity leave from my job, which is full-time and physically demanding. I'm supposed to be off for at least 4 more months. My husband, 32 male, started a new job 6 months ago. He says it's draining his mental health and now wants to quit without another job lined up. He brought this up last week and said I could go back to work early so we don't fall behind on bills. I asked what he planned to do in the meantime, and he said he would take care of the baby while getting his mental health back to speed. I don't trust him because he hasn't really been involved so far. I do all the night feedings, all the cooking, cleaning, laundry, nappy changes, doctor visits, etc. When I asked if he would start stepping up with the baby now, he said, I will if you go back to work. Like, only if I do? Like, this is your child too. You're supposed to do something. He also recently finished setting up a new game room in the spare bedroom, got a new chair, headset, lighting, some wall panels. I don't care that he games, but it felt tone deaf. I haven't had 20 minutes to myself that didn't involve washing bottles or pumping. If I return to work now, I know I will end up doing everything: childcare, household, and full-time job. I told him no, I'm not going back to work at 7 weeks postpartum so he can quit a job he's barely had. He got upset and said I'm not supporting his mental health and that I'm being cold. I do care, but I don't think it's reasonable to expect your wife, who is 7 weeks post-birth and still bleeding and running on 3 hours of sleep, to jump back into work just so you can play Call of Duty and figure things out. Am I the a-hole here? Edit. He washes the car sometimes, yeah. Other than that, pretty much nothing. Update. I posted here about a year ago. The post is on my profile for anyone who wants to read. I guess it won't come off as a surprise to anyone that my marriage did not last. He ended up quitting his job anyway. About 2 weeks later, I said no to cutting my maternity leave short. We had a huge fight about it. He told me I didn't understand how bad things were for him and that I was being selfish. I told him I was still physically recovering, hadn't slept in weeks, and that I needed a partner, not a second child. After that fight, he didn't come out of the game room for 2 days. He'd just come out for snacks and disappear again. For the next couple weeks, he was holed up there almost full time. Would sleep during the day, play games all night, and never touch the baby. I was running on fumes. My mom came over one afternoon and found me crying while holding the baby in the laundry room. She packed a bag for me and we went back to her place. I didn't go back. Divorce was finalized a few months ago. It wasn't messy because he didn't contest anything. I think he was too deep in his own world to care. He still sees our child on weekends, but mostly through his mom, who thankfully is sane and helpful. He's working part-time now, last I heard. As for me, I'm doing great. I'm back at work and most importantly, I feel like myself again. I forgot what that felt like for a while. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's better than being stuck in a house with someone who wanted to opt out of everything and still be thanked for it. I'm really happy for you, OP. You deserve the best and I truly hope you find it. Your ex-husband was an a-hole and I'm glad your mother gave you the push you needed to leave and divorce him. He said you were selfish because you didn't support him, but he wasn't doing anything for you and your newborn child. The one thing he was doing, which was keeping a job, he wanted to quit so you could go back to work after a few weeks of giving birth. He sounded like the most selfish and cruel person ever. I'm happy you're no longer with him. I wish you and your child the very best. Take care, OP. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for insisting on bringing food to Christmas that my sister-in-law won't eat? My sister-in-law is trying to be an organic, GMO-free Pinterest mom. Good luck to her with that. We rotate who hosts Christmas every year, and it's their year. We have traditional things everyone makes every year. Example, grandma makes cornbread and decorates Christmas cookies with the kids. There's an aunt who always makes a broccoli cheddar soup everyone loves. My sister-in-law sent out an email saying they don't really do sugar and are gluten-free and check for the GMO-free project label. Otherwise, we will be unable to use the ingredient in the kitchen, going so far as to send a photo of the label. I was irritated at first, but it was neither here nor there because I figured, whatever, next year it will be at Aunt Broccoli Cheese's house and this will be a non-issue. But then I visited my gran and she's 86, so checks her email like once a month and hadn't seen this yet. Her face fell and she didn't really understand sister-in-law's reasoning and said, well, it's their house, I suppose. It's not my place to make a fuss. I thought the grandbabies liked making cookies together, and that broke my effing heart. I assured her she misunderstood and we called them up and sister-in-law said it was just too much unnecessary sugar and the kids would be too hyped up and how about they make clay cookies instead. Apparently, my aunt had also called sister-in-law up about the soup because she's made it every year for 17 years. And sister-in-law said all she had to do was make it without the cheese and she doesn't understand what the big deal is. I called my brother up and asked why the other 15 people attending should forego their traditions because his wife is going through a phase. And if he wants, we can host it somewhere else. He said he doesn't understand why everyone is being such a-holes about this. I've been thinking about it all day. On the one hand, it's their house and it's a valid thing. On the other hand, we've got plenty of relatives in their late 80s. And I can't really fault them for wanting to keep their traditions. Am I the a-hole for insisting we bring the food we always have? You're not being an a-hole in this situation, OP. Your sister-in-law is an a-hole. The only case in which she won't be an a-hole is if she doesn't cause a scene if someone else hosting the dinner told her to not bring her organic GMO-free food to their house. And I highly doubt she's that kind of person. You and other relatives should be allowed to bring in food that you want for Christmas, even if your sister-in-law doesn't like or appreciate this food. It isn't all about her. It's about family. Just because it's her house doesn't mean you all should turn into her for the night. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. People bring broccoli rice cheese casseroles to every holiday I attend even though I hate it. I don't complain because I'm not an a-hole who would deny food to others just because I don't like it. Honestly, it never would have even occurred to me to complain because reasonable people don't think their choices and opinions are the only ones that matter. Clay cookies. Jesus. Not the a-hole. Traditions are nice and all, but this is how we've always done it is a pretty tricky mindset. It's fine if sister-in-law cooks within her set parameters, but it's overboard to ban all such food ingredients from the table. One person's preferences shouldn't outweigh the preferences of the party as a whole. I will say though, if everyone is upset by this power trip she's on, then there's a chance that she won't be allowed to host again. My sister hosted 4th of July parties twice. And they were so terrible that my whole family has vowed to never attend one again. Not the a-hole. As others have said, the most diplomatic option is for someone else to host. It's fine for your sister-in-law to ask for specific needs to be met in her own house, and also fine for others to decide they don't want to. A solution is then to tell sister-in-law that there are traditions the family doesn't want to forego, but you respect that this is not something she can accommodate at her house. Therefore, you've decided that X person will host instead. There can still be GMO-free, sugar-free options served. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for showing up to a couple's event against the will of my fiancé? I, 24 male, recently showed up unsolicited to a couple's event my fiancé, 27 female, was invited to in a professional capacity. She is currently very pissed at me. My fiancé is an attorney. She's been working at a firm for some time since graduating law school. Every year, the local bar association organizes this event where attorneys from the area are invited to network and see some old pals from college. The invitation also goes out to the partner of said attorney. Last year, I went together with her and had a merry good old time. I saw some guys there who also work at her firm that frequent the performance engine shop, where I work as a mechanic. We share similar interests, and we pretty much hit it off immediately. We still hang out every now and then. The event got pretty rowdy towards the end. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of these attorney types aren't the goody two-shoes they pretend to be. And I, amongst others, ended up on stage singing to classics such as Journey's Don't Stop Believin'. Effin' love that song. However, my fiancé ended up experiencing that night very differently. She pretty much went off by herself during the entire thing. She told me she spent the night networking with a few established attorneys and some old acquaintances. She also told me she got a bit embarrassed by my actions towards the end and that she would like to put on a professional demeanor in front of her colleagues and expected that of me too. Now, mind you, we often go off the deep end on the weekends and she doesn't have a problem with me acting like the fool I am then. So last week when I mentioned how excited I was to go with her again this year, she flat out rejected me. She told me I wouldn't be able to properly behave myself in front of her fellow members of the bar, and that was that. I tried promising her that I would be on my best behavior, but no means no was the final answer. Why would you be embarrassed of going to an event with your significant other just for being the person he is? Certainly if that very partner promises to be as innocent as grace itself. The event is literally meant for couples. Initially, I wasn't gonna go, but my newfound friends WhatsApped me and I thought, to hell with it. So I got there early, joined up with them, saying she was gonna run late. Texted her, had a few drinks, and when she arrived, almost got dragged out of the party. I got stomped into my car with strict guidelines to go home and was whipped into motion. Not wanting to make a scene, I drove off. Got 2 honey butter chicken biscuits from Whataburger and spent the rest of the night Netflixing. Fun times. A week later, she is still pissed as hell at me for not respecting her boundaries. I've been sleeping on the couch since then. In the meanwhile, I can sort of find the humor in her not wanting to lose face in front of her fancy pants colleagues because of her oddball fiancé. It truly isn't that bad though, but she still can't. Am I the a-hole? Now for some comments. You're the a-hole. Your fiancé is trying to build a career. You embarrassed her at the last event by not acting professionally, and now she understandably doesn't want you representing her to her colleagues. You're the even bigger a-hole for just showing up unannounced. Let me know if that marriage goes through, because I would be surprised. Yeah, you're the a-hole. She said don't go and you did anyways. Last year you behaved in a manner that her co-workers could get away with, but was maybe not appropriate for the significant other of an employee. You seem to not recognize the difference between a corporate event where your fiancé wants to put her best foot forward to get on the right track and a regular weekend. You're the a-hole and you continue the a-holery by refusing to understand what you did wrong. You embarrassed her at a work function. You were behaving foolishly and should respect that this is her job. You behaving like a drunk frat boy reflects badly on her. Then you doubled down, went completely against her wishes, and further embarrassed her again. Dude, seriously, don't you see how you effed up here?